A couple of points for this video start. I'm sorry for cutting a lot of bits out and fast forwarding things, but a lot of people have been telling me from the comments that I should probably make shorter videos and make them more easier to digest. So I did need to fast forward a lot of things in this video to make it a bit more shorter for you guys and easier for you guys to actually watch it in one sitting. So I'll have a link in the description to an iFixit guide in case you don't know how to disassemble your Nexus. And you do not need to take everything out. All you just need to do is take out the board. So just follow the guide all the way up to that step. You can leave the battery in your phone and things like that, but you know, if you want, watch this video first and then go take a look at the guide if you need any sort of information and things like that. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, I'll catch you all later. Alright, so in this episode of What the Hell Am I Doing on YouTube, I'm going to show you guys how to fix an overheating Nexus 4 with one of these. Now, this is a sardine tin cover. I'll explain this later on in the video. Alright, hey everyone, hope you all are having a wonderful day. Today we're going to be looking at my phone. Now, this is going to be a bit of a shorter video from the more previous ones that I've done, but I have a bit of an issue with my phone. This is a Nexus 4. I've been running it for quite some time now, and you know, I honestly love it. It's one of my favorite phones. The only downside is it doesn't have an SD card slot, which for me it really doesn't matter because I stream most of my music through Plex anyways, which I'll have a video on at some point. But that aside, the one main problem that I have with this device as of the moment is it's overheating. Now, I didn't have this issue a couple months ago, and that was probably because it was the winter and you know, it was a lot more colder. But recently I started playing Pokemon Go a lot more, and I noticed the device would get very uncomfortable to hold after 10 to 20 minutes of use, and I've managed to got recorded temperatures of 59 degrees Celsius. Translated to Fahrenheit, that's about 138 degrees, and that's very hot for a phone to be getting. Now, I haven't really found much of a solution online, but I did find something along the lines of putting a metal shim in between the CPU and the case with some thermal paste. Although I didn't have any extra pieces of metal laying around which I could actually cut, I did have a sardine tin, however, and that's where the tin, or the top lid of the tin, will come in handy. And yeah, as you can see here, I'm just showing off the thermal paste. One thing that you should make note of is whether or not your thermal paste is actually conductive, and you can easily just Google that, and the majority of them are not nowadays anyway. I'm gonna give this a shot, and it's not gonna be easy to tell right off the bat if this works, but I will do some tests and things, and hopefully there'll be some kind of results at the end of this video. So the first thing you're gonna want to do, obviously, is you're gonna need some thermal paste. I have 2 tubes of this stuff, usually because when I do videos and testing CPUs and things like that, I usually keep this around. It comes in handy, and you don't need anything special. Just this is some Arctic Silver I got from Radio Shack for a couple of bucks, and it works just fine. You're also going to need a couple of screwdrivers. The first one being a normal star head, and the second one being a Torx sort of like hex head screw, which I don't know if the camera will focus there, but it's one that I got from the screen replacement kits. Now, I don't know what size this is, but if I'm able to find what size it is, I'll put it on screen now, so that way you guys will know. Or if not, maybe you look up Nexus 4 repair kits, and maybe you can find something. But for now, I'm just going to wing this and see if it actually works. So first thing, obviously, I don't think we'll need to do much, but, you know, turn the phone off, obviously. So we're going to shut the phone off. Alright, now that that's off, we're going to start by taking the case off, because I kept the case on this so it'd protect the screen. And now we're going to start undoing these 2 screws on the bottom here. Hopefully you guys can see that a bit better. But these 2 screws that will hold the back plane in place. So I'll undo both of these. They're very small screws, so try not to lose them. Sometimes they get a bit stuck. There you go. And you should just be able to pop the case right off. Depends on where you kind of grab it from. As you can see, you can easily do it if you have a nail. You can also use one of those tools that come with screen replacement kits that is not supposed to like edge up your phone. Oh, also, now I know why I got the screwdriver. It's actually for, it's not for this, but you're gonna need to take your SIM card out. So let me see if I have something that'll fit. There we go. That will just do the job there. Usually you can use a toothpick for that, so you want to pull your SIM card out, set that aside, and yeah, we're gonna just pull the rest of this apart. like so. It's gonna take a little bit of effort, so you might want to, take your time with this. You don't want to break anything. You're just gonna slowly want to kind of bring your thumb around the phone like that, or your prying tool off, like so. I'm just gonna fast forward this bit here so you guys don't get bored and stuff like that. And from here, what you want to do now is you want to start removing the screws that hold the plastic cover over the main board for the phone out. Now this one you can use the Phillips head screwdriver for, because all of them are basically star shaped. And yeah, you start by just removing all those screws, and make sure you set them in a side in a good spot so you don't lose them again. And do take your time, because remember, phones are very fragile, the parts are very thin, so you don't want to break anything. Alright, so in this scene, I'm pretty much removing all of the ribbon cables and accessories, unscrewing the battery, disconnecting that so that way the phone doesn't have power anymore. And yeah, after that, you pretty much lift the motherboard right out, and it should just come out with no problem whatsoever. And here in this scene, I'm kind of just confirming what's the CPU and where it was sitting at the time. So as you can see, I'm pointing at there, and then that indentation in the case right there. So those are the two spots where we want to put thermal paste later on in this video. Here's the tin cover. Not the greatest thing in the world. Obviously, if it's a bit dented like that, you do want to flatten it out. But that's the bit that I'm going to cut inside there, is that center bit where, the in between those bulges. So we can get a nice flat surface to work with. And be careful when you cut this, because tin, especially can covers and tin covers, are very sharp. So when you're doing this, you kind of want to just take it slow and steady. You could do it with a pair of scissors, but just be careful when you're doing it. Make sure you have a good grip on the thing. And one thing that you kind of see me looking at here is I'm just making sure if the lens is clean, because what I did was I took a Q-tip, soaked it into rubbing alcohol, and which I recommend you guys do this, by the way. Clean out both the back part of the case where the lenses are for the camera and the flash, and for the front facing camera as well. But that I did because there was just a lot of dust in there that accumulated over time, and it just looked bad. The front facing camera wasn't great, but dust being inside the case didn't help either. As you can see me here, I'm trying to get the camera to focus on the front facing camera of this phone. And I also did take the Q-tip and wiped both cameras as well, just to make sure that if there's any dust on the micro lenses, so to clean that all off and stuff like that. And as you can see, even though the camera itself looked clean, I did wipe it, and I found the Q-tip just went really dark, so I guess it was full of like dirt and sand and stuff like that from over the years of me using the thing. And here pretty much I move everything out the way, and we begin to cut the foil. Now make sure you don't hold any of the edges, just grab the center bit that you want to cut, and the bits that are the edges of where you cut are also going to be very sharp, so be wary of that. And I grip the chunk in the center here to make sure it doesn't actually go flying anywhere. As you can see, the bottom bit did fall onto the ground, and I do trim off a bit of the excess to make sure it looks like a rectangle or a square, whatever you'd say. And I do flatten it out a bit because it was a bit bent when I got it out of the tin. So as you can see, I'm lining it up here to make marks on where I want it, where I need to cut it so it fit. I recommend you can use a marker or a pen or something that would write on that. But what I did was I kind of just took a screwdriver, the same star screwdriver, and just kind of scarred it a bit, and then I cut along the line that I made, or try to cut directly in the path of that line. And here you can see me beginning to cut the thing after I scarred it. Make sure you try to follow straight as you can on the line. Take your time when doing this. There's no need to rush. And now I'm just fitting it again and making sure if I need to cut any more. I do cut one more time on the top, but it's a very fine amount. So as you can see like that, I just kind of take a rough estimate and cut a little shard of it off. And I believe in this bit it did fit, but the end there was a bit long, as you can see. Yeah. As you can see here, I'm making one last scar to cut it down to size, and then I'll cut that end off and try to follow it as straight as I can again, like so. And then I do a test fit, and I'll bring it into frame in a second here, as you guys can see.
it fits. It's not perfect, but it's close as you know you're gonna get it, because when you're doing something like this, it's not about getting it perfect, it's just about getting it to work, you know. And so as you can see, you know, it fits, and I try to flatten it out a bit and make sure, you know, there's no sort of bump in the metal or anything. Now the next bit is what I do is I take a Q-tip. I do contemplate either putting the thermal paste on, but I opened the tube and then I realized, wait a minute, this might actually be a lot more dirty than I think, so I do put the tube down before actually applying it. I grabbed the alcohol Q-tip again and I started just wiping the area out, and I noticed it was very dirty. So as I don't know if I show the camera here, but basically the Q-tip was completely gray on that side that I wiped out the area in. Yeah, there you go, you guys can see that. Basically that's the area of where the CPU was. So I do wipe it off. I do 2 passes to make sure it's clean, because you don't want you know, dirt getting to the thermal paste. You want good contact, you want clean contact. So as you can see, I do also wipe off the CPU in case anything was on it, because I didn't want anything to be in the thermal paste, just to be safe. And now pretty much I begin to apply the thermal paste, you know, making sure I don't put too much, just a little dab like that. And then I put the metal shim on, and once I kind of twist it a bit to make sure it gets a good, you know, flat contact, and I also rub it around to make sure the paste spreads and there's no air bubbles inside the paste as well. But once that's, you know, done, as you can see, I kind of do like a drop test and a little rubber bit fell out. But as you can see, once you kind of get good contact, the thermal paste acts somewhat as a glue, so it'll hold the metal shim into place. And I do put that rubber piece back in there. And as you can see now, I start to put some thermal paste on the metal side, and this side is supposed to make contact with the CPU. Now the metal shim, it's basically supposed to act as a heatsink. It will still vent through the phone, you know, ceramic, I don't know what you call that, ceramic backing, and it'll still create heat, but the point is it's supposed to allow more heat to be transferred. And as you can see, I did use a bit of the Q-tip there a few seconds ago to wipe off the excess. And now you want to pretty much put the board back, and you want to make sure you have all of the cables that you want to reconnect, or need to reconnect, sorry, above the board, or kind of like outside of the way of the board going back in. So like as you can see, I would grab the battery connector there, and I do use a screwdriver here to help me out, because one of the connectors was under the board and I didn't want to have to like raise the whole thing out to just grab it again. And yeah, here's the part where I start moving everything back, and I use the screwdriver here to help me out a bit, because the headphone connector was under the board still, so I needed to move that out the way before putting it back into place. As you can see, I kind of slowly move everything back. As I said before, you do want to take your time. You don't want to break anything. If something doesn't feel like it's not going properly, or if it's needing a lot of force, do double check everything to make sure that it worked. I also here, I did check to make sure the thermal paste made contact with CPU. It did, but the camera couldn't, you know, see it. It was a bit dark. The light wasn't even helping me there, so, you know. So I start reassembling the thing, and this bit I could, you know, pretty much fast forward from here on out. You just reconnect everything in the reverse order of you taking it apart. As you guys can see, it's a moment of truth whether or not it turns on, and as you can see, it does. So I let it boot up, and I move all the metal scraps away from the actual workspace, because you don't need them anymore, and those are basically hazardous, so I recommend you throw them out right away when you're done with them. And I'm going to jump ahead to the end of this video because I want to show you guys some numbers. And this screenshot is basically me and my recovery updating the phone, but as you can see, the CPU was at 51 degrees, which is a few degrees drop. You know, it's not a lot, but it does help. What I've noticed is that it does still get very warm. The CPU itself, I monitored the temperature with an app now, and the CPU itself still does get very hot, but the phone itself doesn't get very, you know, uncomfortable to hold unless, you know, you start doing some crazy things in an area that there's no air circulation, and that's what I've noticed. But if you're using it outside, it'll get warm, but it won't get crazy hot. Now there's another trick that I want to show you guys, but I'm going to leave that for another video because this video is long enough. But I do have another trick up my sleeve for keeping your phone cooler. Now that video is going to apply to all phones, not only just the Nexus 4. So I'll leave that video for probably tomorrow as another upload. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below, and I'll catch you all on the next one.